This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
But it's some sickness, and maybe too much of it is out there in the media because the people that run it, the people that are involved in it, the people that are the principals, they tend to be, not all of them, but some of them tend to be a little, what shall we say, weird. And there's a lot more to that stuff that hasn't come out about Hollywood exploiting somebody because, you know, it's convenient.
When the two Corys talk about it, like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, they try to talk about the pedophilia running rampant in Hollywood, and they got shut down with the Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Todd Bridges, and there were a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
I want to also add something else to this conversation. Officer Stan, welcome to the conversation. I'm trying to add a few more people to this, but I have a huge problem piggybacking on what Ron just said and what Philip said earlier regarding Hollywood. All these people who are now, like, in a sense, denouncing him. Oh, man, you're speaking against his music, him as an artist, that versus his personal life. Lady Gaga, John Legend, all these people who, made money off of this guy. If you're taking the time out now to speak out against this person, and you're saying, he's a problematic musician, and also, too, that you apologize that you work with him, then apologize the right way, in my opinion. Give the money back to all those people who can prove that they purchased your albums. I think that, again, it is really, really sad that people are kind of using this, in my opinion, as a PR stunt, because if I am Lady Gaga and I denounce A.L.L, and I say I am so sorry that I did XYZ song with him, then of course people are going to go and try and find that song because supposedly, right, she had it removed from whatever source, whatever platform it was on. To me, it's just like Hollywood all around. It's so sick. It's just all of it. I don't even know where to start, and I definitely feel for the victims, the real victims of this. But I look at it, and I'm saddened by the fact that these parents were feeding this beast. They were feeding this monster. But also at the same time, I'm also looking at the fact that hurt people hurt people. This person was molested by a man, raped by his sister. His sister took his virginity. His brother's out here now telling the entire world, my sister is the first person I slept with. But also, too, I just listened to Nate, who was saying it was known to everybody. This man was a pedophile. Hey, you know what? He's the creepy guy. Why didn't somebody stop this a long time ago? Long time ago. Why was he allowed to continue for 20 years? So who do you blame? Who do you really blame? Because it just seemed like everybody benefited from this. It's like replaying and reliving this whole God bless the dead. What was that pastor who was caught with the little boy?
Eddie Long.
Yes, Eddie Long, when everybody was, talking about him. But all the preachers were saying, we knew that. If we knew something about it, why aren't people doing something about it?
Because long as the money don't stop, people won't complain.
Half of them are fellow freaks.
Right.
So then
you
how
Eddie
dare
Long
you put your name and speak out against something like Charlemagne the God, who, again, I blame her mother, this person who claimed that he raped her. I mean, your daughter was out 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. She's 15. Why are you letting your 13, 14, 15-year-old hang out with this grown-ass man anyway? They shouldn't be friends. They got nothing in common. Why would I allow you to befriend my baby girl? Like, that's insane. But I don't even know where to even start because I feel bad as a woman, and I feel bad for the real true victims.
Well, Sister Valerie, the thing about it is we got to put our thinking caps on. With the Eddie Long situation, the only reason we found out about that is when he stopped paying them boys or those young men. When he stopped paying them with trips to Europe and all this stuff he was lavishing on them, that's when we started hearing. We didn't start hearing about R. Kelly till maybe the money started running dry because he don't own his publishing. Like you said, he's touring because he's broke. So he stopped being extorted and blackmailed by these people. He said, I can't pay out no more. Forget it. It wasn't that long ago when Michael Jordan was getting extorted by this white lady. He stopped paying her and just made it public that this woman is trying to take this money from me, and she said I owe her this and that, and nothing came of that. He just put it out in the public. But with us, with Eddie Long thing is he wasn't necessarily all these guys are interesting. They R. Kelly called himself the Pied Piper, right? He said he's the Pied Piper of R&B. Who was the Pied Piper of Hamlin, right? Pied Piper of Hamlin went around. He was making the rats come out the city by playing his music. And when the townspeople wouldn't pay him, he played his music and took all the kids with him, and they disappeared. So he never lied about the persuasion of his music, how he was, he was able to persuade and influence people with his music. But my thing is this, is that how can you talk about the system and not be serious about curing the disease? Is it R. Kelly or is it the culture? Because I remember when growing up that my mom and my family would not let us stay over people's house overnight. Like my mom said, y'all can't stay over so-and-so house. I know they live next door, but because in that neighborhood where my mama grew up in, my uncle was a victim of a pedophile, of a monster, as y'all call it. You had two monsters in that community in South Memphis. You had two well-known pedophiles among the community. My uncle was molested by a next-door neighbor. And the only reason my grandparents found out about it because the principal and the teacher of the elementary school he was attending called my grandmother to a conference with them. Because my uncle, he was a good student at first. He obeyed and all this stuff. Then he started acting out in class. His grades dropped. And then the principal and the teacher told my grandma that he was being molested by a neighbor on the same street as they lived. My grandma wanted to go to the police, but the principal and the teacher said, don't do that. Just keep him away from the guy. But the thing about it was, the reason why he was over there was because the guy's sister would get boys in the neighborhood to come over to the house so he could molest them. His sister was helping him or enabling him to molest the boys in the neighborhood. So my uncle kept on getting taken advantage of. It's hard for me to understand why my grandparents acted the way they did towards that situation or the community. Because you also had another monster predator who was a well-known college professor at the local HBCU. He was on the board of directors at the local church in the community. And his thing was he would try to lure little boys in, say, I want y'all to cut my grass. And he'd give them candy and money, but once he gets you in the house, he'll take advantage of you sexually. So you have a generation of black boys going to manhood being messed up by their experience because the adults around them failed them, including my grandparents. It probably bothered them to the day they died, what happened to my uncle, because it tormented him to the day he died. He died from HIV/AIDS complications at the age of 40, about 15 years ago.
Are you from Memphis?
Yes, sir. I'm in Memphis right now.
Oh, love. I'm from Memphis, too. I just wanted to ask that. What's your name, bro?
My name, I'm Ron Hurd. I go by Brother Ron sometimes.
All right. I'm going to connect with you. Valerie, make sure I connect with Brother Ron. He's from my hometown.
Yes, Philip, he is, I sent you a couple of his videos long before we started working with Judge Brown. He's We All Be TV. Remember the videos? We learned of him when he was interviewing Dick Gregory.
Okay.
Yeah, but I will put the two of you in contact. But yeah, you've heard him before. But I will put the two of you in contact. Judge Brown, I think we've got Officer Stan on the line.
My adopted son. Okay.
Hello, everybody. How are y'all?
Oh,
Hi,
bless you,
how are
man.
you?
Good to hear you.
I'm doing well. Hey, Pop, it's good to hear from you. Very interesting conversation. I'm going to apologize ahead. I'm in the truck right now trying to get home, but I'm loving this. It brings back kind of some bad memories. I worked a call about 20 years ago, and it was on night shift, and I'm sitting up at the police department. A guy walked in with a shoebox full of pictures, about 600 of those old Polaroids. You had to peel apart pictures. And it was a picture of a man with a 6-year-old girl having sex, and he had set the camera on a timer. So I had to sit and look at all of these 600 pictures, and the guy said, well, I just moved in with this old man, and I found this. You know, and these are from maybe late 60s, early 70s, and this by then it's in the 90s, so I'm like, okay, so I go down to the house, and the old man lets me go in and search his house. He says, yeah, you can come in, and by then he's in his 70s. So in all of these pictures, what was creepy is there was one of those Shirley Temple Cupid dolls that were about maybe 3.5, 4 feet tall. That was in every one of these pictures naked in the back. So I'm searching his house, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, I don't know what I'm going to find in here. And I go in a room, and there's that doll. So, of course, we end up arresting him and everything as time went on. And so one day I never went to trial. He pled guilty. And I go down to the police department one day. They call me. There's some people down there with a bunch of flowers. And I go in, and there's about 5 or 6 people now in their 40s crying, you know. And they say, you know, we told everybody about this when we were little, and nobody believed us. And you are the only one 40 years later that believed us. And the guy had molested all his sons, his daughters, his grandchildren. He just went through the family. He was the older Hispanic guy that owned a restaurant, a popular restaurant here in town. So the district attorney wouldn't prosecute it for that reason because they were all good friends and how that goes. And the guy would cut the vaginal hair, some of the vaginal hair off of each one of his female victims, and he would glue it onto the vaginal area of the doll. And when we got that doll, all that hair was still on there. I remember going to the DA conference and seeing that doll in a big plastic bag. And out of all the things I've seen in 26 years that would make people lose sleep, that doll has forever stayed in my head. And it just goes to show when people make that claim, you can't blow it off. I could have easily just told the guy, well, you know, just throw him away, but that's not how we do business. And here it is 40 years later, you bring closure. So when people tell you these things, don't be quick to blow it off or make it up because they're a celebrity or a person in a certain sphere that has power or influence. Because oftentimes it's the people that hold some kind of control or power over potential victims. These people pick folks out, targets on purpose that they can control. And, you know, one of the girls ended up committing suicide long before I was told about it. 2 went on to be strippers. 2 were drug addicts. 1 guy was gay. And that had ruined almost every male and female in his family. And they ended up giving him like 60 years, so I guess he pretty much died in there. I didn't really follow him once he went to prison. But to me, that's one of the things I'll take away from this job, that I can say, you know, I did good for these people. They finally got somebody that would listen to them and believe in them, you know.
Well, you know what? There are cases here. We got a corrupt DA in Memphis. Her name is Amy Wiry. She's very corrupt. And one of the worst corruptions is, and it even made the statewide district attorney general's newspaper. They have one they circulate amongst themselves. And it was this Southern Baptist preacher who videoed himself having anal sex with or oral sex with somewhere around 19 or 20 boys, all under 12 years old. And the DA let him off with a misdemeanor sexual battery on each 1129, 10 1129 sentences running concurrent for 10 years unsupervised probation, and he did not get on a sex registry. That's just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm trying to find the judge that went along with it because in Tennessee that's illegal. But they did it to cover this guy up. So the settlement the church reached with the parents and the victims was that they would pay for their college educations. See, that kind of thing goes on today is a typical travesty brought about by some just flat-out evil.
Yes,
No
sir.
way
And a lot
around
of these
it. It's
cases,
just evil.
it is. And a lot of these cases involve your wealthier people, your celebrities. I mean, these celebrities and they have some of the parties that they have and some of the places they travel to have these parties. And, you know, a lot of these other countries aren't going to say anything because that's a revenue stream for somebody in that city that's in a position of power or influence. And America condones a lot of it. You know, Jerry Lee Lewis had a child bride, and that's going way back. And so the American culture in reference to relationships and inviting sex between children and adults, you know, you can listen to the song Peggy Sue. You can go back and look at the old films where the guy was 18 or 19 and his girlfriend was 14. And this was in white American society where these stories were prominent in the 70s. You could see them. In the late 60s, they were featured movies. You look at Gidget that used to be on all the time, and you saw a little girl sitting out on a beach who couldn't even fill up a bathing suit, and you saw 18 and 19-year-old guys claiming them as girlfriends, and that was normal in society at that time. Well, when you take something like that and you make it media-wise and you make it normal, then you get these people who just sit back and prey on children. And America has done a lot of condoning all that stuff in the past to lead to some of the things that we have today and taking power away from victims and their ability to speak up. We can look at the recent Supreme Court hearing that went out on Judge Kavanaugh, and that lady was treated like garbage, thrown under the bus. Now, I don't know if what she said was true or wasn't true, but if I went on a call and treated a complainant or a victim the way some of those people treated her at that hearing, I'd be fired.
So,
well,
Officer
let's say
Stan,
this.
I want to ask you real quick, just why do you think they're now wanting to prosecute R. Kelly with no evidence?
They can't prosecute him. They're trying to destroy him through the media.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, they said that they're collecting evidence and they're going to press charges against him in the state of Georgia or something like that. Like they have some evidence.
Georgia. I don't know what. I'm thinking Illinois. Go ahead.
No, I think what they'll do, R. Kelly is such a distraction. Not just it's almost like if we look at the Catholic priest. Once you get one, you're looking at somebody that's in the entertainment business, and I'm quite sure he's not the only one. But it's easier to throw one up on the altar as a sacrifice than it would be to dig into all the goings on. If we were to look at and prosecute and investigate what we call modern day music, the same way that they looked at the church, you shake the trees, you'd be amazed at what falls out. So you have to sacrifice somebody to appease the crowd. R. Kelly is not the only one. That, as was alluded to earlier by the one brother, I didn't catch his name, but the black church is right with some of this stuff. But, black folks, we don't want to bring that up. But some of the same preachers, folks rolling on the floor and throwing money around and speaking in tongues of these mega churches, let's start looking at them. It's there. R. Kelly is a sacrificial lamb.
I don't want to say anything. It was fiction. It was fiction, but remember The Godfather, where they put that horse's head in that producer's bed after that little girl walked out there hobbling because she had sex with him?
Absolutely.
They even know about it.
Absolutely. It's a twisted level. Sex is like a drug, and these young kids to these sexual fiends are like crack cocaine or method that are ultimate high. And these guys have the money, and they think that, well, I can do what I want to do because I'm above the law. We can shake down the political tree, and let's see what's going to fall out. See, R. Kelly has the potential to open up a lot of doors.
Yeah, it does. I'm in my 70s, and I know women in their 50s, 60s, late 40s here in the Memphis area that confide in me and tell me about going over to certain prominent black folks' houses who were leaders in the civil rights thing, prominent members of the community, and, you can go over there, they're fine people. and get over there and around poolside, get naked and being shown how to give a good hand job or a head job. And the wife liked to go down on them and everything else, and they still have troubles, 50, 60 years later, 40 years later, 30 years later, about what happened to them. It happens, and see, a lot of politics today is driven by the fact that there is a cabal between the Republicans and the Democrats at the top of freaks who have sexual perversions that they're trying to normalize. Now, I would call everyone's attention, since we're talking about it, a proposed House rule now that the Democrats are in control, H.R. 2282, which would amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to include protections to people who are compelled, amongst other things, by their psychological condition or other things, so that they are oriented sexually in a certain way. And they're talking about pedophilia. And they want to also concurrently remove age restrictions on consent. That would help Art Kelly out. But, I mean, it's sick. That's directed toward the desires of pedophiles to deal with children. And now they got that little 9, 10-year-old freak that they push on Twitter so much and on ABC and Good Morning Show and everything else, where he's a little, they call him the tranny boy, and he dances for some perverts for money in a New York club. And he's up pushing so that they can have true love between grown men and boys, and he's their poster child. And he's calling it LGBTPQ. So, I mean, There's a move afoot. It's a sickness, but, there used to be a thing about even if you got a problem, control yourself. Now they're trying to say you should not have to control yourself. Something about that is just wrong.
And I'd like to add, too. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just going to be really quick. And it was really sad for me when I started in police work in the 90s, and we would get, calls and arrests of these sexual predators and rapists, and it was almost 9 times out of 10 a white male or a Hispanic male. There was across the board. And I watched it go in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, it started creeping into where it was black males. And it made you almost hang your head down, because that was a time when you could at least, no matter if we were selling drugs and we were gangbanging, you could walk out of there with some type of a thing in your spirit that says, well, at least we're not doing that. And I watched black people gravitate toward an acceptance of that lifestyle because it was celebrities. If we look at Michael Jackson, or whether we look at Prince's behavior, whether they were or weren't, we don't know. But we were spoon-fed that on such a small scale that it became part of the culture. Then John Benet Ramsey happened, which was the little girl who was found dead in her house. And that case has never been solved, but pretty much folks know who did that. And she was sexually assaulted and had been continually sexually assaulted, and nobody's in jail today. Well, why not? Well, because the Ramseys have money.
Well, see, officer, you just hit an important point. Hollywood, the media, is desensitizing us to what we used to consider horrible wrongs, in getting us accustomed to those wrongs becoming perceived as okay. I remember the first time I saw this applying to us as a people, black people. It was about 67 or 68. They had a guy named Fred Williams who was a football player, and then he became a black actor, Fred the Hammer Williams. And they had him playing the hero in a movie, but he was a major drug kingpin. And the villains were a rival drug organization. And they wound up doing all kinds of wrong in that movie. He murdered people, tortured people, and in the end, there are about 40 dead bodies or wounded bodies laying on the ground, and the police haven't come, and he winds up riding off into the sunset, filthy rich, smoking a cigar. And then a few years later, you had Superfly, who retired to Europe off all of the money he made selling cocaine. They started glorifying stuff So now you had Biggie Smalls on a rap record talking about he financed his first tape by selling grams. And you've got it legitimized where they talk about bitches and hoes and moving, merchandise, drugs, where that becomes, it just creeps into the consciousness. Now, I was the other day walking in a store, and I was getting ready to, leave, and it dawned on me. I said, you know what? I'm listening to elevator music. White folk wouldn't even let that be played on the radio around here when it was contemporary. But now it's elevator music, and I remember that well. And hell, I got to thinking about stuff I remember from when I was in elementary school. And I'm thinking to myself, what are these kids going to think about when they get my age from that time period in their lives, talking about bitches and hoes and all this other kind of nonsense? That's what's going to be in there? I can remember got a job, shot it out, or rattled, shake, rattle, and roll those pots and pans, ain't got time for your hoodlum friends outside, got a job or got lots of money, just got paid, now and got nobody to talk to, and then I'm going, what are they going to think about? It just gets in people's heads and you condition them to it. That was what the Nazis did. Their minister of propaganda said, tell a lie one time, it's a lie. Tell it 1,000 times, it becomes a truth. Tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get anyone to believe it. Well, it doesn't even have to be a lie. It can be something that is reprehensible, ridiculous, and just totally wrong. But if you keep saying it in a favorable light, or you scapegoat somebody until they get overfed, so I'm bored with it, I don't want to hear about it, and then you start working on a little at a time. Or in this case, what the main objective is destroying masculinity. So you put R. Kelly up there, who is a sick puppy, not masculine. He lacks manhood. His music is okay, but he lacks manhood. And you sit there and use that as a false example for everybody to say, oh, masculinity is bad. And you get a study people cite coming out of a prestigious university saying masculinity is a mental condition. Real men suffer from a mental infirmity because of their manhood, which is, I read it completely, it's ridiculous. It's obvious that the people that did the study had a position they were trying to substantiate. Instead of the research being taken as something to analyze objectively, it was selectively picked with a small sample to build a point around something's wrong with manhood and it needs to be treated as a mental illness, which is the most ridiculous tripe I have heard in a long time. But people are citing stuff like that. And when you look at R. Kelly, he just becomes a convenient means to attack manhood. And it's particularly bad because the one thing that black folks suffer from, present company accepted, is a lack of manhood. So isn't that right, my dear producer, director, Miss Valerie? By the way, that's what you asked.
Yes, but I wanted to piggyback on something Officer Mason just mentioned. I just found it, I want to recant the whole thing about the government shutdown and move into what you were just talking about. Do you know that just today there's an article that surfaced, Daily Mail put it out, and I realized that there were a couple articles that's talking about pedophilia, but they said convicted pedophile Gary Oliva reportedly admitted to killing by accident JonBenet Ramsey. And this is how the first few sentences read of this article. It says, ongoing mystery behind JonBenet's death may have finally been solved. Gary Oliva, 54, a convicted pedophile serving a sentence of 10 years for child pornography, admitted to accidentally killing her in letters sent to his music publicist. According to Daily Mail, he said, I never loved anyone like I loved JonBenet, and yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half, and I watched her die. It was an accident. Please believe she was not like the other kids. I loved her so much. So you think that they're opening the gate for this whole pedophile thing, like trying to gauge our temperature to see if this is accepted, kind of like they did when Obama with saying, hey, you know what, we need to give people gay rights, so they found out if we're going to be okay with that, and now all of a sudden now there's all these gay rights and this and that, so now it's time for pedophilia. So let's use this person and that person, R. Kelly versus a Harvey Weinstein, because those women were grown, but these were kids. You think they're just trying to just kind of set the tone and set us up for this next level of insanity?
Yeah. They've been doing that for the last 50 years. There is a league formed between those who have been outed: gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transvestites, and pedophiles. In other words, the thing about being gay is supposedly you were born that way and you can't help it. The thing about being a pedophile is you were born that way, you can't help it. The thing about being tranny is you were born that way, you can't help it. The thing about being a lesbian is you were born that way, you can't help it. See, that's the common thread. If you can't help it, it's supposed to be okay. You're supposed to be protected like you are a class based on color, race, creed, religion, national origin, or sex. And now they want to change sex so it's fluid. The person claims to be a woman, but he's got a penis. You're not a woman if you can't breed with a man. You know what I'm saying? You're not a man if you can't breed with a woman. At least theoretically, you might be sterile, but, that's another condition. So they want to get around these realities that have worked for us for hundreds of thousands of years, from when they had the first proto-humans. It's just a sickness. In other words, I don't like it, so I want it to change. And because I don't like it and want it to change, it has to change. Well, guess what? That isn't the way the world works.
I also like to bring up this as well. This is why it's important to have these type of conversations and to have control of our media. Because you look at the case of Dennis Hastert, the former House Speaker of the House from Illinois, one of the leaders of the witch hunt for Bill Clinton. They found out he was, going around molesting teenage boys, and he was a wrestling coach, right? And he was found guilty in the court of law. And the judge ruled, after they let him out of prison, that he can't have any type of contact with people under 18 years of age. Like a judge said, he must have adult supervision when he's in contact with people under 18 years old. That's Dennis Hastert, one of the leaders against Bill Clinton for doing a consensual heterosexual act with a woman, right? So also you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, like the officer Stan talked about police getting involved in these cases, but here's the problem with Jeffrey Dahmer case. Most of his victims were black gay males, right? But also it was an incident where this 14-year-old Laotian immigrant came running out down the street, butt naked, blood out his rectum. Two women called the police saying this guy's being abused by that white man, Jeffrey Dahmer, and the police gave the boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer. He was injured, he had blood coming out his rectum, and the police gave the boy back to Jeffrey Dahmer. Had they did their job, there's no telling how many lives would have been saved.
Well,
and I talked to people from Milwaukee. Now, I talked to Jeffrey Dahmer's interest, right? He worked at a chocolate factory, right? Like R. Kelly had the album Chocolate Factory. But he hanged around a lot of black people. Black folks would come over his house after hours, do like a happy hour thing. And some people talked about the smell in his apartment. So it's interesting. He preyed on black folks because black folks are not really a protected class of people in this country. We're not taking seriously about our ills. But what I'm saying is, you look at Dennis Hastert, he's from the same state as R. Kelly. They put him in jail. They said, look, you cannot have any type of contact with kids without adult supervision. So R. Kelly stuff came up, and that time he had his day in court. They couldn't find the on. They had the videotape. They still couldn't send his ass to jail. So what is the problem?
Well, wait a minute. Let's talk about something we brought up before, the parents. I actually sat next to Jeffrey Dahmer's mother and his father or stepfather, and they're telling me they thought he always wanted to be a veterinarian. Why? Because he used to masturbate with roadkill. I'm saying, what? Do you actually caught him? Oh, yeah, we caught him many times. We just figured that he was really wanting to get into animals and be a veterinarian. I said, he's masturbating with something that got run over by a truck.
Jesus
he
Christ.
would go out there and get dead squirrels and birds and stuff and actually use it to rub on his penis while he's masturbating. I said, you didn't get that sick thing from treatment? What's wrong with you?
Jesus. That's bestiality, Joe Judge. To me, I don't saw no veterinarians.
Yeah, but I mean, it led to him doing people in and eating them. You know, so they didn't have a clue while this thing is growing up. This thing.
Yeah, man.
Puppy. And I heard them say it. I was right there when they said it.
And the boy could speak English, too, his victim. That 14-year-old, he could speak English, but he was injured. He had brain injuries, and he was bleeding out his ass running down the street. They should give you some pause, saying, what's the hell going on?
Right. And then you said they gave him back to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, the officer lost his job, and they gave him his job back. The officer was named John Boslerjack or something like that. He lost his job because of the outrage. But it was two women that understood this guy was in trouble, but the police said, oh, we're just having a lover's quarrel. And I remember when the Jeffrey Dahmer thing came out. I was a little kid. I still remember like it was yesterday, looking at People magazine and stuff like that, reading about this case. Most of his victims were black people. It's like, think about it. If R. Kelly had the Cosby thing, let's say if most of R. Kelly victims were white girls, alleged victims, he'd be in jail right now. We'll Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about the optics. Black lives do not matter in this system. We are, you know, we've been sexually violated since we got here, man. You think about the term MFer, right? Think about, you know, the sex farms. Look at this movie called Goodbye, Uncle Tom, the director's cut from the 70s. It was made by some Italians. They used primary sources from American history. They talk about J. Mary Sims. They talk about the Catholic nuns buying these little young slave boys off the market down in New Orleans, giving them as sex slaves to the priests. All this stuff is documented true history. Look up Goodbye, Uncle Tom from the 70s. They pulled that thing out the movie theater so quick. But what I'm saying is, this country is very disturbing to me, where black bodies do not belong to black people, whether it be entertainment, whether it be lynchings, whether it be the prison system, whether it be the education system. Our bodies do not belong to us. We got to fight back because we can't get no justice in a system that don't respect your humanity. Never has. So we got to be honest. You want to kill R. Kelly, but it's the system, like New Jack City, right? Was Nino Brown the problem, or is the system that produced a Nino Brown the problem? Which is the real problem, R. Kelly or the system that produces a R. Kelly?
The system is getting off the hook. See, the system should have censored R. Kelly. There was a guy named Fatty Arbuckle, and who was one of the wealthiest stars in Hollywood. And they had one of these freak parties in Hollywood, and he had sex with this chick, and he jumped up and down so hard after they threw her down on a bed that he ruptured her bladder, and she died of peritonitis, and they banned him from any further work in Hollywood. I don't see why they never did that with somebody like R. Kelly, other than the fact that his victims were non-white, if you can call it that, with the complicity of their parents. So, you know, that thing, it's no wrong, and what's wrong with them having sex if they wanted to with no understanding of the necessity and needs for children. They treat children these days like they are, what is the term, little people instead of children.
Right.
It's a bad thing because it's unrealistic. And that's part of the problem. These are just little people, so they have rights. Like I had an argument with a woman about searching lockers in junior high school. They have their rights. They should not have their lockers free. Yes, they are, because the school is acting in the position of what they call ex loco parentis. When the parents aren't around, the school becomes the parent. And here you are, the parents should be checking, going in the kid's room, seeing what the hell's going on. But they don't. My child is entitled to his privacy. Oh, how old is he? 9. And you don't go check to see what he's up to? That's why they listen to all this poison stuff on these videos and things that they see on TV that they shouldn't, because, I'm protecting my child's privacy. Oh, hell.
Right. Well, we're down to the last 15 minutes of the show, and I opened up a few more mics, 407-954-254-216-316. Guys, your mics are live if you'd like to say anything. But what do you, especially you, Ron, you're today's guest, what do you guys want people who are listening to get out of today's show? Like, is there a message, something that we can say? Because fake news is saying what it's doing its job. Now it's our turn. So what is it we want to say to people who seem to be fascinated by the fact that they can lend an opinion, but without any kind of resolve? Like, we're literally just talking. So what do we do with all of this controversy, energy, all this madness, all these things that we know have been going on for years and elected not to do a single thing about?
I would thank you for having the foresight and the vision to help all of us on this panel discussion. It's very, I'm glad to be with like minds, and I'll just would encourage people to treat the internet like y'all going to church when y'all praying to Jesus or whatever. Do their Google search about anything you want to know or ask. Just put it in that search engine and think for yourself. I will get people to take notes on this show and to not just accept what we say, but to challenge by doing your own research and come to your own conclusions about the information that we shared. So we got to get out of this thing where we need to follow people around. Like I got this thing called the mailman theory. When the mail person delivers your mail to your mailbox, do you go to your mailbox to get the mail, or do you follow the mailman around on his route? Which one should you do? And then when you get to the mailbox, you got to be able to discern what is the real mail from the junk mail. It's like when you get all this news and information, what is the real facts versus the fake news, right? And so also I want to get people to pay attention to what's going on in California. We talking about pedophilia. We talking about all this other stuff going on. This guy named Ed Buck. Look up Ed Buck, this big-time Democrat, donate all this money to the Democratic Party, right? Got found 2 black males dead in his apartment.
Yeah, the guy dead in his house.
Over 2 years, right.
Put his name out. Yeah, this is the second guy who died in
2 years.
Home. Yes.
No charges brought against this man.
His name. Right. Exactly.
He's a big-time activist for LGBTQ and in Hollywood, and he's been immune so far.
There you go.
You be black, and you, Officer Mason, you get a black man, and there's another dead somebody up in his apartment. What do you think, or a house? What do you think's gonna happen? And then you get the second somebody in a year and a half dead up in his house. Right. What do you think's gonna happen?
Absolutely, Judge. I just think, to me, just to sum up, I just think that a lot of these crimes with children is similar to like if we take marijuana, when the behavior was taboo, it was illegal and quietly done, and then now when people figure out how to make money, see, that's why these children are trapped and folks make money. When they figure out how to make money, they slowly legalize it, very slowly, and that's exactly what's happening here with that house rule that you mentioned. It's slowly coming.
Wow. 407-308-407-308. You're live. Your hand's been up for quite some time. Do you have something you'd like to contribute to today's conversation?
Hey, how y'all doing? This is Maurice.
Well, bless.
Oh, hey, Maurice.
Hey, I was listening to that about that Ed Buck situation, and that is actually kind of crazy that the media has really downplayed that whole process, and more importantly, our community has downplayed that whole process too, because it's like right now it's just R. Kelly, and I think and furthermore, we are really not trying to just come to grips on how strong and how open that pedophilia situation has become, especially in the Hollywood circuit too. I mean, if y'all would have caught The View a couple of years back when the young actor, the old actor Corey Feldman was speaking about it, that pedophilia is really rampant in Hollywood, and Barbara Walters was just trying to condescend him and be like, "You're talking about that? Those are some powerful people you're talking about." You're like, "Yeah, but pedophilia is really rampant out there." Mm-hmm. But then you see how the media just went so strong as to go at Michael Jackson when this situation arose, and come to find, it was like everybody and their mama was just cracking jokes and making Michael Jackson to the biggest pedophile of all when they never had no evidence on him. And now, ironically, they're about to do a movie on the sex crimes and whatnot. Once again, dude never got convicted of anything. So my main point about this is, and I hate to bring race up on this, but it's kind of like they're doing character assassination towards a lot of these so-called black celebrities. Now, granted, we've all seen the R. Kelly situation, and he does not get a pass from me with the 14-year-old girl. As far as those 17-year-old girls that was on the documentary, I'm really like past that, because my thing is this: we've all been to high school before. We've all known there was always some girls at the high school that every guy wanted to get at, but they couldn't get with them. But for some reason, those girls end up going with like 20-year-olds who had the cars, fame, and all that. And what makes it what irks me a little about the process is that we're trying to play that like that was taboo, and it always went down like that. So now, all of a sudden, this documentary comes out, 6-part documentary, mind you. Not everybody and their mom wants to take this as the biggest thing to slice bread, and R. Kelly's public enemy number one. And my thing was, the ironic part is, 3 of the girls that claimed that he was abusing, TMZ got them on at one of his concerts in the front row, jamming like it ain't nothing. So I'm like,
that's sort of like the Bill Cosby story. One of the rapists was actually the daughter of the mother. How did that go? Her daughter actually sued Bill Cosby, and when they didn't get money, then the mother came back and said, "Hey, you raped me." How old? Right. Just for the panel, how old was Tamora Lee when Russell Simmons married her? Wasn't she really young? She was like
17, 18. She was about 17,
Didn't he meet
18.
her and start dating her when she was like 15 or something like that?
Probably. He got money too, though. Russell got money.
All this is nothing new, man. Personally, I don't think, as far as, children, no, you should not be messing with no child underage like that. But for a lot of these people to just go moral, knowing how a lot of these relationships have kicked off, it's like that ain't nothing new what's going on. Kels, what he did on that videotape, he should go to jail for that. But don't sit there and play like this ain't never happened when you had Jerry Lee Lewis and his cousin, Elvis Presley, and his young Priscilla was 14 at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was a teenager.
That was Jerry Lee Lewis's wife. It was his cousin, too, first cousin.
Right. But Priscilla was a teenager when she met Presley, too, though. Priscilla was a teenager, too. She had to get her parents' supervision and consent.
Well, in Tennessee, marrying your first cousin is incest, too.
Well, you have one of the brothers in Alabama married his first cousin.
Here's the $5,000 elephant in the room. Lifetime is really not a good channel when it comes to showing good things for black men. Now, I'll give you an example. That's one situation.
Well, it is a channel for women.
Yeah, it's a channel for women, but the thing is, they really make black men look bad as a whole.
Yeah.
Because I remember when they did the Miss Chalet movie, Surviving Compton, and I'm sitting back like, you guys honestly would have did a Miss Chalet movie if Straight Outta Compton wouldn't have blew up? Seriously? It was like they're piggybacking off of it. So they needed another scenario. It's kind of like they pick and choose what they want to cover. Now, let me ask y'all a question. If R. Kelly never did any pedophilia in any way, shape, or form, do you actually think they would have did a documentary on his success?
Nope.
No.
At all.
Is there not a statute of limitations, as it relates to this?
Now, I was going to say, real talk, I don't believe if R. Kelly hadn't been involved in this pedophilia stuff, we'll still believe he could read and write. We wouldn't have no clue, dude, was he living.
But, I mean, once again, they picking and choosing what they want to cover, and most of the time it's not making black men look good in a special light. And we've had so many success stories that we didn't have to compromise. But they're not going to channel that. They'll channel the pedophilia thing more than anything. And with some of our sisters, it gets to the point where they tap into their emotions, and it's just automatically, we need to hang that person. So white society don't have to do anything towards taking us down. They'll let us do it to our own. That's why I never really celebrated when Bill Cosby went to prison. I'm like, oh no, hold up, something just ain't right here. And even if I wouldn't celebrate up and down for it, because if he did it, he was wrong for it. But at the same time, y'all still ain't had no proof on the man. And he still.
And what they were talking about didn't constitute wrong anyway. It's called grouping.
Tell him, son.
You go for sex, drugs, rock and roll, and what is it? You go back 17 more times to the man's house, and you called him up 7 times on Valentine's Day, and you still are associating with him. You got raped? Oh, give me a break. And then the stuff that he gave her was, Benadryl. Benadryl is for allergies. Right. It ain't for sitting up giving somebody something to get them wasted. Give me a break. You got a bisexual woman. You got a bisexual woman turned lesbian on everybody, and now she's aggrieved she dealt with a man who was trying to get somewhere too.
I'm not saying I can't drug her with Benadryl, but I'm going to defend Benadryl. Benadryl do knock you out now. Benadryl do put you to sleep. So,
well,
I don't know if he gave them.
But look at how some of those ladies were lying. The black model, what's the girl name? She was on the View, claiming that Bill Cosby raped her, and Whoopi Goldberg said, "Ask her." She was like, "Yo, how do you know he raped you?" She was like, "I just fell asleep and I was in the car." Whoopi Goldberg, how do you know he raped you though?
What?
I know this is. I know that this topic is like saying Candyman. But is this any different than Pizzagate? I know we shouldn't talk about that, and we definitely shouldn't, being that we're down to our last 2 minutes. But is this any different than Pizzagate?
Well, the thing about the Bill Cosby thing, I said earlier in our conversation about the reason why they were lynching black people, because they were business owners. Look at the Bill Cosby thing from a different point of view. Bill Cosby and his wife Camille own so many acres of land in the Northeast, in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. It's this energy giant out in the Northeast called Kinder Morgan. They wanted to build a pipeline to access the natural gas on Bill Cosby's property. Back in March of 2014, Camille Cosby wrote an editorial talking about how she was going against the energy giant, and she was working with environmental activists. This is 2014, March 2014. You can find this article online, right? She talking about how her and her husband was joining with the environmental activists to save the land from being exploited by these capitalists. At the end of 2014, so all this stuff started coming out. Hannibal Buress, Comedy Sketch, and all these women started coming out. This is about a land grab. This is about business as usual. They use the sex thing as a sideshow, as a distraction. But the truth of the matter is, this is about black folks can't have generational wealth in this country, period. We built this country, but we're not allowed to celebrate and pass that on to our generation. That generational wealth that they owe.
And I'll add one more thing. Carolyn Bryant, the woman who murdered Emmett Till, or who got Emmett Till murdered, she's still out on bail, never got sent to justice, and she admitted that she lied. So where's our passion on that?
She never got put on bail because they never charged her with anything.
Right. And she
now,
did it
back
to
it. Benadryl. I have allergies. I take 4 or 5 of them at a time. I mean, I'll take 4 or 5 of them at a time every other day for the allergies, and they ain't never knocked me out like that. And that Beverly Johnson, I listened to the interview Whoopi Goldberg did with her. She said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I started feeling drowsy, and I was about ready to fall out, and he called a taxi and escorted me down the elevator and put me in the cab and paid my fare. So what did he do? Well, he was going to do something. She never said he did anything. She just said she fell asleep in the cab. It must have been something that she wasn't remembering. But you said that when you started getting high, he called you, said you had to go home. You know?
Wow.
Right. Right.
Wow.
All right, guys, we are down to the last 2 minutes, so I'll go on and get your final thoughts. For those of you in the chat room, you listen to the Judge Joe Brown Show, 929-477-1167. We had Mr. Ron Hurd, brother Ron Hurd, in the building, who I'm now going to call my surrogate brother because of my surrogate dad. I guess, Ron, you know what? I don't even know if I can say that to you because, you know, Officer Mason seems to be the only person that Dad claims, so we might be stepchildren. I'm just messing with you.
That's the kid as well. That's all right, Daddy. That's all right.
Hey, Ron, are you seeing anybody? Ron, are you seeing anybody?
No, I'm not seeing anybody right now.
Last information, you're not seeing anybody now? On last information, I heard that Valerie was single and looking.
Oh, my really?
God.
Hey, ain't no wrong with that.
Note,
we all kissing cousins anyway. We all kissing cousins.
Let's give it an applause, Ron, I swear. Isn't that called incest, Dad?
Wait a minute now. Since we established a relationship, and we talking about Jerry Lee Lewis.
We've been talking about this the whole day. And now you want to bring brother and sister together. Where
great balls of fire. Hey.
Y'all crazy.
How did we go from Dad to she needs a man? But anyway, guys, all right, so this has been great. Definitely. Thank you so much, Ron. I don't know how to thank you enough. This is fun. It was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out. And I would definitely love to do a part 2 if you'd like to entertain the idea. So definitely after the show,
I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Well, great. Good. Yeah, we're amongst family, or you are. And I appreciate everybody who chimed in today because obviously we got some work to do because I'm not exactly sure if we solved any crimes today, so I couldn't put my Olivia Pope hat on today, but I do think that we brought up some really, really good points, and hopefully people will continue the conversation after today's show. Judge, I always give you the last words. You got 30 seconds. She's already in my ear saying 90 seconds before they turn the lights off. So do you have anything that you'd like to say in 30 seconds or less?
Well, yeah, it looks like I'll be having a new show called Hot Topics that'll be played on the weekends for the first pilot, which will be for 6 weeks. That'll be coming up. We're starting taping on that the end of this month and the beginning of next month. So help me out. Let's boost the ratings up so they can keep it and make it a regular show and then expand it for the week. And I can be caught on Twitter at Judge Joe Brown TV.
Yes, and real quick, Ron, what is your contact information, real quick?
Well, people can reach me at, go YouTube, We All Be TV, one word. Also, my phone number is 901-299-4355. That's 901-299-4355.
All right, so I'll make sure to get that to Philip because he asked about that. But for everybody who was brave enough to press the number 1, we definitely thank you. We love you to life. We hope you guys have a great weekend. Please be safe, stay prayed up, and don't forget to continue the conversation on the other side. Also, don't forget to subscribe and share the links with other people because that's how we're going to take it to the top. All right, guys. All right, everybody. Again, be blessed. No stress. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Goodbye.
Blessings.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to share our links on your social media. We love you to life. Please enjoy your day.
The Judge Joe Brown Show, presented by Valerie Denise Jones. Uncensored truth with a legal twist. Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 929-477-1167. Or visit MissValerieDeniseJones.com for details.